Good morning. You know, that's one of my favorite songs, and I didn't even ask him to sing that one. So after we sing a song like that, I just want to get up here and say, praise God. And that's it. Praise God while we stand and sing. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But wouldn't that be great, huh? No, I'm just kidding too. Well, our theme for the year has been building godly families. We want God to build our families. We want God to bless our families. And so we've been focusing all year on building godly families. And lately what we've been doing is we've been going through the Song of Solomon, the Song of Songs. And we've seen all kinds of different principles about romantic interests, about godly dating, godly courting, and specifically this morning, we're going to notice some things about preparing for godly marriage. So if you would, go ahead and open up to Song of Solomon chapter 2, Song of Songs chapter 2, please. And just to remind everybody about the approach that I've been taking with these lessons is that Solomon is glorifying the ideal romantic and sexual love between a husband and a wife. There are analogies that we have made and that we're going to continue to make about the relationship of God and his people, but primarily this is a literal relationship between a husband and a wife. And please remember, I'm going to try to say this every time, there are no notes or markers in the original Hebrew text about who is speaking. So we can be pretty confident about who's being spoken to because masculine or feminine forms of words are being used. But if you have a different translation in the pew in front of you, go ahead and look at that compared to your preferred translation if they're different. Because it's probably going to break it up differently than the other translation. So all that to say, we have to rely very heavily on the context to try and determine who's the one speaking. And so please just study it for yourself, come to your own conclusions. So to remind us where we've been, the Shulamite woman is longing for Solomon. She longs to be with him. And she's a little insecure. She's got this deep, dark tan because her brothers made her go work out in the fields. And compared to the other women of Jerusalem, she feels really insecure compared to them. But last week or 2 weeks ago, we noticed that Solomon, he sees her, and he thinks that she's just jaw-dropping. He doesn't notice anything that makes her insecure at all. And she even comes back and says, well, I'm just one of the flowers in a field full of flowers. I'm nothing special. And he says, no. You are a lily among a bunch of thorns. You are absolutely beautiful. And they praise each other's character, and they long to be together. Now, Song of Solomon, Song of Songs, it's not a literal historical narrative where this happened, then this happened, then this happened. It's a lot more like a photo album where you get a snapshot of a picture in time, and as you flip through the photo album, you sort of see the relationship progress. And this morning, in the snapshots that we're going to look at, we're going to see that they move steadily toward marriage. And really, their marriage happens at the end of chapter 3. And so in doing this, we're going to notice 3 considerations in preparing for godly marriage. And even if you're already married, if you've been married or whatever, there's going to be some lessons for you in this as well. We're going to notice 3 considerations in preparing for godly marriage. So please, if you're in Song of Solomon chapter 2, we're going to start down in verse 8 to verse 14. Now in this snapshot, I think we're going to see the couple has been away from one another, and the Shulamite woman seems to be having either a dream or a daydream about her man, and she's even going to sort of speak for him. Let's read it. Look at verses 8 through 14 with me, please. The Shulamite, she says, listen, my love is approaching. Look, here he comes, leaping over the mountains, bounding over the hills. My love is like a gazelle or a young stag. See, he's standing behind our wall, gazing through the windows, peering through the lattice. My love calls to me. So here she sort of speaks for the man. So the man speaking, arise, my darling, come away, my beautiful one. For now the winter is past, the rain has ended and gone away. The blossoms appear in the countryside, the time of singing has come, and the turtle dove's cooing is heard in our land. The fig tree ripens its figs, the blossoming vines give off their fragrance. Arise, my darling, come away, my beautiful one, my dove, in the clefts of the rock, in the crevices of the cliff. Let me see your face, let me hear your voice, for your voice is sweet, and your face is lovely. Now, one of the main reasons why a lot of commentators and translators think that this is a dream or a daydream kind of sequence, because she sort of speaks for the man. Did you notice that? She says, my love calls out to me, and then she sort of speaks for the man. Everywhere else the man speaks, he just says it. She doesn't say it for him, he just says it. So it's likely this is a dream or a daydream kind of sequence. Maybe she's recounting something that actually happened in this poetic song here, but this picture is they've been away from each other for a while. They've been apart. And then she hears him. She says, listen, my love is coming, my beloved, he's coming across. And look at what she says. He's climbing mountains, he's leaping hills, he's bounding over the mountains just to see me. I mean, is this Superman? I mean, he's actually jumping over those mountains? No, he's not. But the idea is they've been apart, and he's so excited to go see her that there is nothing that's going to stop him. Mountain, going over that. There's hills, going over those, because I am just so excited to go and see her. And even when he gets there, it's almost like he's knocked on the door, but she's taken too long. So he's looking through the windows. Where you at? I got to see you. He's looking through the lattice. Where are you? And it's a really beautiful thing. He can't wait another minute. So if you're already married, just imagine the excitement of going back to seeing your boyfriend, going to see your girlfriend. Maybe you've been apart for a couple of days. And when you're deeply infatuated with somebody, that 2 days, that's 2 lifetimes, isn't it? So, some of you might be in that situation right now. It's a beautiful thing. It's a wonderful thing. And there's nothing that's going to stop him from going to see her. And so he goes and he sees her. Well, the Shulamite then speaks as if she's the man, like kind of gives the character to this, or voice to the character here, verses 10 through 15. And the man takes her by the hand and they run outside and they go be together out in nature. He says, the winter is over, the rain is gone, and their love is in the middle of spring. Aha, great timing, right? I wish I could say I planned that. I didn't plan it. Spring just started Friday. But their love is in the middle of spring. There's flowers, there's blossoms everywhere. They're singing. The turtle doves are cooing in the land. The fig trees are giving off ripe figs, and all these vines are blossoming, and it smells sweet. Spring and love together. In a lot of different cultures, from a lot of different regions, spring and love go very well together. Everything's fresh. It's new. They're enjoying one another. They have all these new and fresh experiences. And the boring grays of winter, almost like before they had met each other and before they got in a relationship, they're gone now. And their love is in the spring of romance. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. There's also some smiles right now going on. So you felt that before. You know what that's like. You've been there. Here he calls her his dove. And that's one of his favorites for her, is going to be my dove. And she's in the clefts of the rock and in the crevices of the cliffs here. And doves would literally hide themselves in these places sometimes. But it seems like poetically maybe he's saying to her, I want you to open up all those secret places to me. I want you to open up and be fully expressing yourself to me. All those things that you keep secret from everybody else, I want you to be able to open those things up to me. And he says, let me see your face. Let me see your appearance. Let me see your form. Your form is lovely. And he says, even the sound of your voice is lovely, and it's beautiful, and it's like music to my ears. It's a beautiful picture. He longs to be with her. He wants to learn everything about her in the spring of romance. Beautiful, beautiful picture. Now, one of the things that this sort of reads like or looks like is he's perfect, she's perfect, they have no flaws, and everything's wonderful. This person hung the moon. And that kind of infatuation that doesn't see any flaws or reality, how long do those relationships tend to last once the flaws show up? Once the problems, not very long, do they? And where it might look like that, I don't think that's what's going on here. Because let's read the next couple of verses in just a second, because it's going to show us this is not immature infatuation. It's what they want for their future, and they're actually going to sort of make plans for how can we stop anything from coming between us. So let's read verses 15 through 17. Verse 15, there's a lot of opinions on who's talking in verse 15. I think poetically it's still the man speaking. He says, catch the foxes for us, the little foxes that ruin the vineyards, for our vineyards are in bloom. And the Shulamite says in verse 16, my love is mine and I am his. He feeds among the lilies. Until the day breaks and the shadows flee, turn around, my love, and be like a gazelle or a young stag on the divided mountains. Now again, verse 15, there's a lot of different opinions. Maybe it's the woman saying this. Maybe it's the man saying it. Your translation might say it's the brothers of the Shulamite speaking. So there's a lot of different opinions on who's saying this. But what's really clear is it says, catch the foxes for us. The us is talking about the couple, those in this relationship. Catch the foxes for us, those that ruin vineyards. And so foxes, I mean, think about it. Foxes are pretty small. They're pretty little stealthy things. But if they're given the time and the access, they can ruin all kinds of stuff. They can ruin crops. They can ruin a harvest. And specifically here, they can ruin vineyards. And poetically, what they are doing is, whoever's speaking on the couple's behalf here, catch for us the little foxes that ruin vineyards. Whatever those little things are that could ruin our relationship with one another, catch those for us. We don't want there to be anything that ruins our vineyards, ourselves, in giving ourselves to each other. They want to cooperatively look for little things that can just destroy their relationship. So what kind of little things are we talking about here? As I was thinking about this, there are some little things that are little foxes that, they're really little things. Like really don't matter at all. We're talking about things like, so how loud do you snore? We're talking about things like, do you chew with your mouth open or do we chew with our mouth closed? And I guarantee you there's wives in the room right now, you're thinking about that habit that your husband does. And at the end of the day, those little things don't matter that much. But even with those things, if you just ignore them, never talk about them, or let that resentment build and breed and build on itself, what happens eventually? You had a bad day, someone's snoring too loud, someone's doing that habit that you don't like, and there's the blow up. Man, that really hurts a relationship. But even more specifically to the text here, I think more along the lines, these are things that look like little foxes. Maybe they look like, we can deal with that a little bit later, or we just got to do a little thing to take care of that. But it's actually a very big deal. We're talking about things like lust. We're talking about things like pornography addictions. We're talking about selfishness or pride, or if I can't say I was wrong, I'm so sorry. Or on the other side, somebody tells you that they're sorry and I was wrong and you just can't forgive them. I will not do that. Might seem like a little thing. Oh, you can settle that one day. That's a huge deal that can ruin relationships. It could also be things like fundamental differences in how we view finances. It could be, you name it. There's all kinds of, we can fix that later. Well, just go ahead and get married and you just fix those things when you're married. Well, the wisdom of Song of Songs actually says, catch for us the little foxes before we get married. And learn how to address those issues, those differences, those problems before you get married. And that sets a great pattern for when you are married and those problems start to arise. Because if you learn how to do that before you're married, man, that's just a wonderful, wonderful pattern to follow later. And on this whole thing too about the little foxes, if there's anybody here who you're dating and maybe you're looking to get married, if your boyfriend or girlfriend has absolutely no flaws, just be on the alert a little bit, because nobody's perfect. There's no flawless boyfriend or girlfriend. And if you haven't looked for or talked about some little foxes, the wisdom of Song of Songs says that you should. Well, notice with me in verses 16 and 17, they belong to each other mutually. It is not that one of them is clinging desperately to the other one, and the other one's just like, I could live without you. It's not a big deal. I could just find somebody else next week. It's not like that. I am his and he is mine. They are mutually belonging to each other. And it's not domination. It's not a power trip for one of them or both of them. They mutually belong to one another. And especially where she says he pastures his flock or he feeds among the lilies, it goes back to the shepherd illustration from chapter 1, where he's a shepherd, he's masculine and he's strong, but he's also very gentle and tender with his sheep. And the Shulamite wants him to shepherd her in that same way, lovingly and caringly inspecting each individual sheep for injuries and tender care. It's a really beautiful picture here. And in verse 17, this verse 17 could be kind of a difficult one to know what's going on. She is longing for marital intimacy with him. That is what she wants. If you actually want to peek over at chapter 4, verse 6, they are undoubtedly consummating the marriage in chapter 4. And he says this exact phrase back to her. So that's what she wants with him, but she says until that day, when it's right and when it's pure to do so, she longs for purity. She wants to remain pure, and that's a beautiful thing. So we see that they're clearly more comfortable with each other. They're expressing themselves to each other. They're looking for issues, maybe even before they arise. They don't want anything to stand in between their relationship, anything that could destroy it. So the first consideration in preparing for godly marriage that I want to bring out of the text this morning is simply this, that infatuation can hide problems. Infatuation can hide problems, and we're talking about some big problems. So before you say I do, the wisdom of Song of Songs says, don't let infatuation hide you from those little foxes. Learn how to address differences. Learn how to address issues and problems before you get married, because that's going to be a great pattern to follow once you are married. I don't know if it's just the movies, or the rom-coms, or whatever it is. It's like, yeah, you get married, then you settle those problems. And it just doesn't tend to work out that way. Or once you get married, all those things are just magically going to go away. Married people, is that true? No, if anything, marriage amplifies those problems. So you got to learn how to deal with them and address them and cooperatively work together in a way that says, I don't want anything standing between me and you and our love. I don't want anything to stand in the way. And so for anybody here who's dating and going toward marriage, if there's no flaws in your boyfriend or girlfriend, that might be an indicator that infatuation is blinding you, because there's just no perfect person. Okay, let's take a look at this next little section here, because the next snapshot seems like the Shulamite has another dream, or maybe a fear fulfillment dream, and it could even be on the night before the wedding. Look with me at chapter 3, verses 1 through 5, please. 1 through 5. The Shulamite speaking here says, in my bed at night, I sought the one I love. I sought him, but did not find him. I will arise now and go about the city, through the streets and the plazas. I will seek the one I love. I sought him, but did not find him. The guards who go about the city found me. I asked them, have you seen the one I love? I just passed them when I found the one I love. I held on to him and would not let him go until I brought him to my mother's house, to the chamber of the one who conceived me. Young women of Jerusalem, I charge you by the gazelles and the wild does of the field, do not stir up or awaken love until the appropriate time. Now, it seems like a daydream or a dream sequence here again, because you see this picture of her holding on to her man. She wants to take him back to mom's house. And then she says, daughters of Jerusalem, and then she says all. So it's likely not a real thing that's going on here, but likely a dream sequence. But this shows us that just the intensity of her love for her future husband. The thought of not knowing where he is and the thought of not being with him causes her great fear and great anxiety. And she calls him whom my soul loves, or the one that I love, 4 times, just in this section alone. She thinks of him unceasingly as she lies awake at night. And here it mentions that she's lying on her bed. That Hebrew word for bed, not always, but many times that it's used in the scriptures, it's mentioned in an intimate sort of way. So it's clear that she has this physical desire for him, maybe even on the night before the wedding, and she thinks of him longingly, and she wants to be with him. And in this dream or this daydream, she's tossing, she's turning, she imagines searching for him, and the city guards even help her. But then she finds him. And once she finds him, she holds on to him and just will not let him go. And in verse 4, this is sort of the most interesting part for me this morning. Verse 4, she holds on to him, won't let him go. Let's take this back to mom's house. And then she even says, to the room of the one who conceived me. Some translations might even say, in the very room that I was conceived. So in the context, we've got some clear marital intimacy desires. She holds on to him. Let's take it back to mom's house, even in maybe the room where I was conceived. What in the world is going on here? I mean, that's a little icky. I don't know if any of us are thinking of anything like that. But in this dream sequence where maybe it's uncomfortable for her, she's just had this great anxiety and fear of losing her man, home is a safe place for her. Maybe she's imagining that. But I also think it shows the purity that the Shulamite has been longing for in this entire song up to this point. By going back to her own mother's house, I think it shows us this is not a premarital rendezvous or some sort of let's be sneaky and sneak around together. But rather, it's more of even in her dream, she imagines the consummation of their marriage to be so pure and so right that they could go to her mom's house. That's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. We see this passion and this longing for marital intimacy, and she wants purity. And the little detail that we get that probably tells us this isn't actually happening is in, the end here, where she says, daughters of Jerusalem, don't awaken or stir up love until it pleases, until the appropriate time. She repeats the same phrase she used in chapter 2 and verse 7. So we see the Shulamite has this passion and desire for her man, and she's patient, and she still wants purity. And so the second consideration in preparing for godly marriage this morning is that godly love is both passionate and it's patient. At this point, this could even be the night before the wedding, and the Shulamite longs for her man in a very physical way, and she chooses to be patient. She intentionally restrains her desires for the appropriate time, for the right time. She's very confident this is him whom my soul loves. She's pretty sure where this is going to end up, that they're going to get married. And at the same time, she's intentionally restrained to God's timing and what would be glorifying to God. She wants to be so pure and right when the lovemaking does start, they could go to her mother's house. So that's what she wants, purity, and she's patient. So for those who are dating and you're pretty sure this is the one whom your soul loves, we think we know where this is going to go, or maybe you're engaged and you're here, our society says, you're getting married anyway. Go ahead. Fulfill your desires right now. When the wisdom of Song of Songs says, don't awaken or stir up love until the appropriate time. And the appropriate time is within marriage. The Shulamite longed for her man, and she longed for purity. So we'll see later on that it actually makes the marital intimacy even more enjoyable, even better when your conscience is perfectly clean and you know that it's perfectly right and that it's approved by God. And that's a wonderful thing. Okay, let's look at one more snapshot this morning. One more snapshot, which I believe to be the wedding day. Look at chapter 3, and let's start in verse 6 and read down to verse 11. Now here, this could be the Shulamite speaking, or it could be an outside narrator speaking. Who is this coming up from the wilderness like columns of smoke, scented with myrrh and frankincense from every fragrant powder of the merchant? Look, Solomon's bed surrounded by 60 warriors from the mighty men of Israel. All of them are skilled with swords and trained in warfare. Each has his sword at his side to guard against the terror of the night. King Solomon made a carriage for himself with wood from Lebanon. He made its posts of silver, its back of gold, and its seat of purple. Its interior is inlaid with love by the young women of Jerusalem. Go out, young women of Zion, gaze at King Solomon, wearing the crown his mother placed on him on the day of his wedding, the day of his heart's rejoicing. Now, one of the things that's difficult about being a preacher is this is a notoriously difficult section of Song of Songs in Hebrew to translate, because there's a whole bunch of options that could be going on here. And remember, we're talking about poetry, so maybe it's not intended to be literal and specific in every single situation, but maybe more impressionistic. Get the impression of what this wedding day would look like. It's possible here that this is still a daydream sequence from the Shulamite where she's imagining what her wedding day might be like, but it could just be an actual description of the wedding party's arrival. And either way, what's very clear is chapter 4, they're married and they consummate their marriage in chapter 4. That's very clear in chapter 4. And because the Shulamite has been so concerned with purity up to this point, from some point from chapter 3 to chapter 4, they get married. There's a wedding mentioned in this section of verses, so I think they get married. But there you go. Now, the Hebrew of verse 6 is in the feminine singular. And because it's in the feminine singular, that means that the who or the what that's coming up from the wilderness, it's either the woman or it's the bed or the couch that's being mentioned here. And it could be that the woman is arriving with Solomon's entourage, or it could be that Solomon is arriving to the wedding. One of the things that's interesting about this is it's a different word in verse 7 for that couch or that bed than for what we're going to see Solomon's chariot or palanquin. Different words. So the way I'm going to present it this morning is maybe it's the woman approaching first on the wedding day, and then we'll see Solomon approach later. So she's prepared with good and sweet smelling things, myrrh, frankincense, every fragrant powder of the merchants. And she's got Solomon's entourage. This bed or this couch maybe was carried on poles by some guys, or maybe it was on a cart. She's arriving in this beautifully decorated couch or bed that belonged to Solomon. He's already sharing the things that are his with her. And it's not just that, but there are 60 mighty men of Israel surrounding her, offering protection as she comes up from the wilderness in this grand wedding procession. I mean, he pulls out all the stops here. She arrives, and it's just boom. This is Solomon's woman on the wedding day, and here she is. And then, a little bit later, in verse 9, we see King Solomon arrives in his own carriage, in his own palanquin. And it says it would be the best wood of Lebanon. It's ornate. It's special for the day. He's covered it with gold and silver. It's got a purple seat. Even the daughters of Jerusalem have inlaid this thing with love. They've decked it out too. So here comes Solomon as well. So you've got this beautiful procession with all these mighty men of Israel protecting the bride coming up from the wilderness. And then here's Solomon in his own ornate, decorated chariot coming up too on the day of his wedding. And so the young women of Jerusalem are charged, go look, go gaze at King Solomon on the day of his wedding. He's got the crown on his head, which would be a marriage crown, not a king crown, that his mother put on his head. And go celebrate this day, this festive day, on the day of Solomon's gladness. It's a really beautiful picture. And the mother's approval, the bride's future mother-in-law's approval, I think that shows us it's not coercion. It's not some sort of power trip either. It's a festive day. The family approves. It's a great day. It's a wonderful thing that's happening here. There's all kinds of witnesses. They're making this public declaration and commitment that I'm devoted to you. It's a really beautiful thing. So the last consideration just from this section of text this morning in preparing for godly marriage, it's just that marriage is a weighty commitment. It is a weighty commitment. Here in these verses, it's a very public and ornate declaration to everybody who's involved. I'm committing myself to this person. And as we've seen in previous lessons, God's design is one man, one woman for one lifetime. That's the ideal. That's what God wants. And so here you see Solomon is already giving to her. Once they're married, everything she has is his, everything he has is hers, but he's already doing it. It's Solomon's couch or bed that brings her up. It's Solomon's soldiers that protect her. He's providing honor and protection and security for her. And once they're married, that's just going to increase. And it's a wonderful thing. So when you get married, and in this thing that we see, you are committing yourself to that person as long as you both are alive. That is a serious, heavy commitment. And marriage involves a lot of giving. Here, Solomon's already giving, but there's even more giving that's going to happen once they're actually married. And because it's in a very public setting and a public declaration, it sort of invites accountability. It sort of invites community. The families are involved. The daughters of Jerusalem are involved. The entire community is celebrating this. And it's a very public declaration that I am committed to this person as long as I am alive. It's a very weighty, serious commitment. It's not a casual thing and shouldn't be rushed into. Now that's where we're going to stop in Song of Solomon this morning, in Song of Songs. And I hope that these things are going to be helpful in preparing for godly marriage. One of the things that our modern, maybe you watch a rom-com or a TV show, what usually happens is beautiful wedding and they lived happily ever after. They never fought. They never had any issues. Everything was rainbows and unicorns all day. Song of Solomon does not do that. Song of Songs is going to give us a very realistic picture of what being married looks like, and I'm really excited to study that with you over the next few weeks. Now, as we close this morning, I do want to connect this to Jesus by way of analogy. The song warns us about little foxes that can ruin relationships. Little foxes that can ruin relationships. Are there little foxes that are in the way that can destroy your relationship with Jesus? Something that seems like that's a little thing, I'll fix that. It won't be a big deal, but can actually cause extreme destruction of your relationship with Jesus. Is it hidden sin? Is it pride? Is it selfishness? Is it distractions? Are there little things, what look like little things, that are getting in the way between you and Jesus? If there are, Song of Songs says that can ruin your relationship if they're given the time and the access. Don't give them the time or the access. We also saw that godly love in marital relationships or romantic relationships is passionate and it's patient. And that's true in our relationship with Jesus as well. We ought to respond to the love that Jesus shows us with devotion and emotion and all kinds of passion. But it's also patient because it's faithful love over time. It's very easy when the motivation's high and we're feeling good to follow the Lord, but it's that faithful love over time. And we saw where the Shulamite was holding on to the one that she loved and wouldn't let him go. I can't help but think about Mary. After Jesus was resurrected, she held on to him and wouldn't let him go. Is that like your relationship with Jesus? You won't let him go. Passionate and patient, it needs to be. And we saw where love leads to a covenant, a commitment and covenant. And when we're baptized into Christ, we are in a covenant relationship. We are making a weighty commitment that says the rest of my life has changed and I devote the rest of my life to this person. So how is your relationship with the Lord? Has it been committed or has it been non-committal? Has it been the rest of my life has changed because of him, or I'm going to do what I want instead? And so this morning as we close, if you need to cut out the little foxes in your life and there's something that we can do to help us or help you with that, we would love to help you in any way that we can. Or if you need to learn about Jesus and learn why he's worth committing to, we'd love to do that too. Or if you're ready to make that commitment and you're ready to be baptized, be immersed in the water, into covenant relationship with him and devote the rest of your life to him. We've got the water and we'd love to assist you with that. If there's anything that you need that we can help with, there's an opportunity now while we stand and while we sing.